Starting a business looks exciting. Behind the scenes, it's full of uncertainty, mistakes, and hard decisions. I'm Kriti Ruparan. On the Business Blueprint podcast, entrepreneurs share their highs and lows and how they practically applied real business school lessons while building their companies. This is real conversation and practical learning. Welcome to the Business Blueprint podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business Blueprint podcast. This is where we break down real business lessons through the journeys of founders and entrepreneurs who are building, learning, and evolving every single day. Now, each one of us have unique skill sets and strengths. And the real shift happens when you tap into them and channel them into something focused, something intentional. Of course, it's great to have multiple skill sets. We do have the phrase jack of all trades. But when you know your core strength and you know your right audience, you're able to create a space of your own, and that's when real growth begins for you. So the focus for today's topic is niche, which is not small. It is focused power. And the business topic that we are going to cover today is on niche to scale, how focusing on the right audience drives real growth. And for this topic, I have a fabulous entrepreneur and a dear friend, Tracey Nguyen, here with us. Now, let me just share about Tracey. So Tracey is a digital marketing and brand strategist, and she's the founder and CEO of BOWO Creative. It's an AI-driven agency supporting female-led beauty brands. With over a decade of experience, Tracey has helped over 100 businesses scale through strategic branding and social media. Tracey is also very passionate in empowering women through entrepreneurship, and she wants them to grow, lead, and build impactful brands. So besides being a mother of a beautiful toddler and a fabulous entrepreneur, Tracey also hosts her own podcast. It's called Build Your Boss Brand. And it is a space where business strategy meets identity, energy, and evolution. And they have honest conversation on branding, marketing, motherhood, and mindset. So what I really love about Tracey is that she just doesn't focus on the visual brands and messaging for her clients. She helps them to discover who they really are. So let's have a conversation with Tracey about niche positioning and how you can build your business when you tap into the right audience. So Tracey, welcome to the Business Blueprint podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So Tracey, can you share a bit about your journey? Like how did you start BOWO Creative?
We want a shorter version. I think we have these conversations before, you and I, privately, that things in life kind of happen for a reason, and it's just you can't really connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dot looking backward, right? And I feel like every single things that had happened to my life is kind of played a role in getting me here. So I came to Canada just like you from another country on my own at 16 as a student, and I finished school, and I thought at the time that my goal was clear. I'm going to get a corporate job. I'm going to climb up that corporate ladder and just, get a home, settle down. All that was my plan until I actually entered the corporate world, worked there for a couple of months, and I realized that this is really not something for me. I graduated from business, so my first job was in human resource. And I quickly realized that my strength was more in creative work. And I found myself just watching other people at the time. YouTube just started, Facebook just kind of, Instagram, Facebook was very new still, but I found myself spending a lot of time on these platforms and just really enjoying watching the content that other content creators were putting out. And then somebody from my high school approached me and introduced me to this online business concept. And at the time, it was masked as a network marketing opportunity. And I jumped in because at the time I was like, corporate job is not for me. I'm just open for different opportunities. So I started with that. And it's like any other MLM or network marketing. There's this concept of like you join and then you host all these products parties at home and invite your friends and family to come over and, hopefully turn them into customers or recruit them. My thing was I don't have any family, and I was just renting a basement. I couldn't have people coming into my home, which is just like a one room out of the two bedrooms basement at the time, to do any of these party stuff. So I started looking at what other ways for me to market my brand and my business without having to do all of these traditional stuff that people are telling me to do. And so I discovered blogging. And that's where I just start blogging about different products that I was selling from a consumer standpoint. Like, hey, I'm having these problems and I'm using these products, and here are my um advice, or hear my suggestions. And next thing I know, it was just like organically, it was just a way to solve a specific problem at the time. And organically, my blog started to pick up, and I started having customers purchasing products online from South Africa, from America, from places that I don't even know who they are. And so I start to adapt I start to dabble a little bit into Instagram, start to move content both on the blogs, on to Instagram as well. And a couple months later, I start getting collaboration requests from other brands that outside of the brand that I was selling. And then at the time, it was just like, hey, we have some free products. Just talk about it on your social. So I did that. And then I start getting paid collaborations from L'Oreal, from, brands that I'm like, oh my God, like I am talking about your brand now and I'm getting paid to do that. And so that was where I was starting to see the importance of building a personal brand, a brand that is not selling directly a products, but more of me, who I am, and people are actually trusting my recommendations or the things that I'm saying. And this was like back in 2015, 2016. So, it's much easier to build things organically at the time. Now is a lot difficult. And so fast forward, I met my first mentor, and she's already a millionaire in her own space, and she's just super smart, super successful person. And she knew what I was going through. There was some personal health challenge with my mom at the time too, and I was like, you know what, I want a business, or I want to build something that I have the freedom to just work from anywhere. Because if my family needs me, I want to be able to be there for them without having to trade off between, do I stay here, make an income, pay my bills, or like having to be there for them, right? So my mentor at the time, she said, Tracy, you doing this personal branding things really well for yourself. Why don't you help other people to do that? And I'm like, oh, I never thought about it that way. And at the time, within that network marketing company, I was pretty much the first person that market the business that way, and not doing the traditional, like, makeup parties and skincare parties or whatnot. And I was getting results. So they had already invited me to train almost like a global network of distributors at the time, just, thousands and thousands of people on how to do blogging, how to build personal brand. So I had a little bit confidence to when my mentor mentioned that, I was like, okay, I think I could give it a try. And she's a interior designer at the time. She retired already, but at the time she had her interior design business, and she said, why don't you help me build my brand first? And she was my first customer. That was it. So I had no idea what I was doing. I really just learned as I go. And then that's how BOWO came into the picture. And, fast forwards, I think we're almost a decade in, and we're now focusing mainly in the medical aesthetic space, medical aesthetic clinics, beauty salons, and all that stuff. But at the beginning, I basically would just learn as I go. I said yes to different opportunities, and once I'm in it, I kind of figure out, like, is this something I love? Is this something I didn't really enjoy? And that's how we're here. Sorry, that was a little bit of a lengthy intro.
But it helps me to set the tone, because I had a series of questions. That's why in niche marketing is what I want to talk to you about. And You're a fabulous creator of personal brand. Tracy, we have worked before as well. I love the nuggets of wisdom on personal brand that you've always shared. And I love your Instagram posts as well. And you're very honest and sincere. The genuinity definitely reflects. So since you touched upon the med spa space, I wanted to ask you, like, what drew you towards working in this specific niche, the med spa space?
That's a really quick question. So back to when I was in the network marketing business, I specialized in makeup and skincare, and they hosted a lot of different trainings. They want you to know the products, ingredients, and all that stuff because you need to understand that in order to sell. So I had a very good foundation knowledge of what certain things can do. You know, what is hyaluronic acid, what is fillers, what is niacinamide, what is lactic acid, and all that stuff. And when I started my agency, of course, at the beginning, my mindset at the time was just I just want to make money. Because you're a startup stage, right? You're hungry for opportunity. So I said yes to many different things, different kind of businesses, and I was just doing social media marketing for them. And then I hosted a workshop, and it goes back to also the idea of empowering women. Your vehicles can be different, but your goals should always be the same. And my goal has always been empowering women. So, a few years into my business, working with different female owned businesses from different industry, I hosted a workshop teaching my community how to build a personal brand. And one of the girls that I knew at a time brought three of their friends. And at the time, I did not know that these three friends owned a medical aesthetic clinics. So they attended my event. And at the end of the event, they came and they said, we have this clinics and we would like to talk to you about potentially working with you. And and they're still my clients now. We've been on this ride together for almost 7 years, and I'm so grateful for the first opportunity that they offered to me because at the time I had experience with the beauty industry, but not specifically medical aesthetic industry. And when I started working with them, the owners, they were also very um keen on me knowing exactly what I'm selling. So there was a lot of knowledge that they passed down to me. Every time I write a post, they would sit me down and say, this post is about this specific treatment, and this is why it's different. This is why we do it differently. This is how it should be translated into the social post. And I just found myself becoming like a sponge. Like I just absorb all those informations, and I'm like, I'm not just a marketer right now. I want to know everything. I went home and do my own homework, and I just feel like this is really something that I'm very passionate about as well. It's just so fascinating to me. And then I just sit back and I looked at all of the accounts on my rosters at the time that I was managing, and I asked myself, like, which one which one felt the most exciting for me to wake up. And when I'm in that account, my brain is just, it's just light bulbs going off everywhere. And that I'm extremely happy and excited to work on, even though I have to do hours of content or whatever. And I realize it's always been the beauty industry that I just developed this passion for, and it just felt very natural. It doesn't feel like I have to work, I have to do anything. It's like I just want to learn. I just want to be creative. And I realized that's my zone of genius is that little niche. And at the time too, the industry was just starting to boom. It was still very what's the word for it? People at the time, especially women at the time, still had a lot of reservation toward the medical aesthetic treatment. They might have already got Botox or fillers done, but they don't want the world to know. And I feel like this industry also grew the same time, the female empowerment movement grew, right? Like now women are openly sharing about treatments that they have done. And even when, they went to the wrong doctors and got a bad result, they would be open to share about it so that other women don't make the same mistakes. Like we're a lot more open about medical aesthetic treatments now compared to when we started at the time. But yeah, so like that, how I got started with the niche. It just naturally, I just wanted to feel that I'm not working. I kind of like it was it was more of this idea of like I just quit my corporate job to pursue this entrepreneurship full time, and I don't want to turn my business to another job. And I was looking for that one thing that really, really got me up and going every day, and that I just love waking up to, and is this industry. So it wasn't like a strategic business move at first. Like I wasn't looking at like, oh, this industry is like booming, there's gonna be projected to make this much amount, billions of dollars many years later, so let me get into this. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was more of just me listening to my intuition and just want to hear like, what is it that I feel most aligned with. Alignment, that was the word that I've been looking for, alignment. And that's how it got started with the industry.
Like the calling you got, like the zone of genius is in the med spa space that you felt that your calling is there. So what is it from the med spa space that you find it's unique in per se in branding and business perspective? How do you find, branding or the messaging that you do for the med spa clinics is different for this particular niche?
I think first thing first is I am their target audience. I am the women in that age bracket that are now open to getting, these advanced medical aesthetic treatments, and also open to share my experience about these treatments. And I'm also in the age bracket that represents the disposable income that can also afford these treatments, and understand that it's not just treatments to look good, but it's a way to take care of myself, the way that will help me show up, more confidently or fully as myself. And what I love about it is, again, like, there's always the pros and cons, and there's always two sides to everything. But at least for the clinics that I'm working with, I love that first, they are all female owned, and they all have the same or similar mission of helping women not only look good, but feeling good about how they look. And they all focusing on just this idea of like not looking for outside approval, but it's actually, just really from the inside, and empowering women in that sense. And it doesn't have to be, like sometimes when I talk about medical aesthetics, people think like, oh, you have to get your lips fillers done or whatever, but it could be something similar at just having healthy skin, right? Like skin that you wake up and you don't feel like I have to put on a tons of makeup to cover anything. I am in love with my skin, and I'm confident and comfortable in my skin. Things are that's more of the medical aesthetic world that I'm talking about. And I think that has also starting to change. Like a lot of clinics now are focusing on holistic. They do IV therapy as well to really focus on your health from the inside, and the skin health from the inside. And I love that aspect of that. And for me, when I first started getting into the niche, my only goal wasn't so much about the industry, like I mentioned, but how can I help these founders accomplish the mission of empowering women through whatever treatments and services that they are doing. So it's more of representing them and translating their mission into creative content, into, videos and posts on social media, and engagement with their community and whatnot.
And that's where the alignment happens, right? You found the right clients having the same mindset like you, because I have seen you, Tracy. You advocate women empowerment and having clients who have the same mission as well. And you, all of it, you especially for their business, you're bringing the right messaging, the holistic approach of these beauty treatments, rather than we have seen, the messaging has been in the early days how it was for the med spa businesses, but you have given them the right mindset and the messaging, how they can brand themselves and how they can brand their own personal branding as well they can work on. So that's, of course, you said there are pros and cons. What were some of the challenges that you can share with us when doing the positioning and the growth of med spa businesses?
I think the biggest bottleneck for a lot of businesses in the medspa industry right now is competitions. In the US, they have this data that's I don't know how accurate it is, but they have this data that's been passed around, that there are more medical aesthetic clinics in the US than McDonald's. McDonald's are pretty much every single corners, right? So it is a very like fast growing and booming industry. Technologies are changing really fast. Light speed right now. Every other month, I'm hearing of a new technologies that are being introduced, more advanced. People focusing on less downtime, because women now don't have weeks to recover from a treatment. Less downtime, fast, non-invasive, so less painful, all of that stuff. And I think the biggest challenge right now is how to brand yourself and how to stand out in this, almost like how to create that blue ocean strategy for your med spa in this big ocean of gazillion other med spas that selling similar services, similar treatments, right? And I think a lot of the time the mistakes of a lot of med spa owners is they selling a product. They're selling Botox for whatever price. They're selling laser hair removal or a laser hyperpigmentation removal for a certain price. But they forget that people don't buy the technology because everyone can offer their clients or their patients that same technology. The things that will make a difference or that will generate the almost a complete different results is the person behind that technology, the knowledge, the experience. One of my dear clients that I work with, they have been they were my first clients as well, and they have been able to create such a successful and unique positioning in terms of putting themselves as the expert of treating hyperpigmentation, but for women of color, which was very interesting because I've seen firsthand the amount of patients that came from other clinics, and I'm not going to disclose the name, but they came from clinics that are very famous and very big and reputable as well. But because these clinics are, could be because the majority of the clients are more on the Caucasian, more on the lighter skin, and they don't have experience working with people like you and me. And so when these patients go to them, they don't have experience. They might be using the same settings on, other skin type, and the results is that the patients end up with burnt skin or hyperpigmentation actually got worse after going there for treatments. So these clients of mine, they were able to really, really niche down on just one thing that they do really well. Of course, they're offering variety of services, but people in GTA and Toronto known of them as an expert with treating hyperpigmentation for people of color, like skin type of maybe medium to darker, and they do it really well. They have tons and tons of case studies before and after to showcase the results. And goes back. I know you're talking about me niching down in the med spa industry, but even within the med spa industry, if you find your niche, you can also grow and scale a very successful med spa on your own and not having to even compete with other people on pricing, because that would be the worst competition you want to be on, because that we say is a race to the bottom, right? Because someone else will always have a lower price than you. But if you position yourself as an expert in something very specific, people like to trust expert authority. They want to know that you can do one thing and do one thing really well, rather than going to a med spa that just offer everything, but they don't know what you do really well.
This actually reminds me of the recent biopic of Michael Jackson, Michael. Having a unique style, unique music, and unique identity. He didn't try to settle down in the pop culture spectrum, but he knew his core strength and he knew his audience, and he created a space for himself. So Tracey, like you have created a space in the med spa business spectrum. You have a client who is focused in creating niche further down into hyperpigmentation for women of color. So we can definitely understand the word niche is not small. It's definitely power focused. So I just wanted to ask one question. So, was it a moment where you felt hesitant in niching down? Like, if you had that hesitancy, how did you navigate that? Because you did say that there are so many med spa businesses opening up in USA. There is competition even here in Canada. So, did you feel any hesitancy, and how did you navigate that?
I think when I first started, there weren't as many medspas as they are today. So the hesitant at the time was that, I'm not going to be making as much money because there's not many businesses out there that is within this niche. But then again, it goes back to the importance of having a mentor or someone in your life that you can talk to and really bounce ideas with and really help guide you to certain things, even if they're in a different business. And my mentor at the time, I admire her so much because, at some point I was interning for her just to kind of learn how she was running her business. And when I was kind of in transition and didn't really know what I wanted to do as the next step with my career. And I noticed that she only took on projects that almost houses that are like 5-6 millions or above. Every single project that she touched is really big scale and really customized, and there's like granite and marble that have to be shipped from Italy for a really expensive price, but there's a market for it. So what she taught me at the time is it doesn't matter what you decide to do, there's always going to be a market for certain things. And one thing that she taught me was that if you become really good at one thing, you can charge a lot higher. So you don't need a lot of clients if you become really good, like, truly really good, not just talking about like, oh, I'm good at this and that, but can't deliver, but you're like really good. You build an honest business, you build a business with integrity, and the clients got great result from you. They're going to start talking about you to other people that are also in the same niche. So you don't have to worry so much about competition or whatnot. Because at the time I was like, oh my God, if I niche too specific, like if I niche down so close to this just one vertical, there's not much money for me to, how am I going to pay my bills and whatnot? But then she gave me this idea that instead of let's say a Walmart, which is also good, there's a lot of businesses that offer the services to everybody and they're still really big. So let's say Walmart, right? You go there and you can find everything and everything is very cheap, like very affordable. And you can either be that or you can be a higher end kind of brands, let's say like Chanel or Dior or whatever. I'm not saying my business is one, but as an example, you don't have to sell a bag every day, but once you sell a bag, it's $10,000-15,000 worth, right? So that was kind of the idea that she planted in my head. And that's where I thought to myself, you know what? Like, she got to where she is with the same philosophy, so she knows what she's doing. And one thing about me is I'm super coachable. I just need you to tell me what I should be doing, and I'm just I'm laser focused in on it, because I think that in business world, taking action is more important than thinking about things. And a lot of the time we sit and we think too much, but if we take action and we fail, at least we learn faster than sit and think, so I just like, let's just go all in. So I just went all in and I really niched down to that specific target. And interestingly, because our agency was one of the first that actually label ourselves as the specialized specifically just for the medical aesthetic business, and we don't work with any other, we actually turn clients from other industry away, our credibility increased significantly. Almost every single sales call that I hopped on and I asked them, how did you find us? They always said Google or whatever, and they always said that I've worked with a general agency before, and we found that they don't understand this industry because there's a lot of things and components that come with it. You need to also know regulations. You need to know what you can and cannot say on in terms of regulations by Health Canada and certain products, right? And then you also need to market in a way that like it is friendly to women, meaning you're not selling them a result that unrealistic. You're selling them something that they feel like, oh, if I'm skeptical about the medical treatment before, now I'm not. So there's like a lot of components to it, and it takes knowledge and experience. So almost every single calls that we have now, people actually came to us because we said that we are in this specific niche and they were looking for this specific expertise.
And you took efforts to understand this space, the medical aesthetic space. You understand the technology and you knew how to articulate the right messaging for the women out there. So rather than the technicality or sharing the results, like how they can help in doing self-care, right, Tracy? And having the right mentor, I think it's the interior designer, the mentor you're mentioning about. So she gave you a good shift in your mindset, like how it's not really a challenge; it's actually an opportunity. And I think this is very important. And you have carved a niche. Like literally, I'm saying this. Like you have carved a niche in this space. I know so many in my previous work where I have medical aesthetics, women-owned businesses reaching out to me. I would share your website. Like you should check out BOWO Creative. You should definitely reach out. So that's amazing, Tracy, like how you navigated this challenge as well. So now it's taking me to the next question on how has focusing on a niche influenced your own brand, messaging, and overall business growth? I know you touched upon it, but maybe you can delve deeper as well.
Absolutely. I feel like I didn't fully like answer your previous questions though, is that yes, if I'm speaking to someone who's listening to this podcast and, they just started the business, it can be a really hard decision to niche down at the beginning because A, you really don't know what you're good at, and B, it's also, usually at startup, your cash flow is tight. You want to make money. You want to say yes to a lot of different opportunities. So looking back, from my experience, I would say at the beginning, like really test the water everywhere. Like don't niche down too early because you really don't know what you're really good at until you actually in the job and performing it. Then you're gonna know for sure, right? Because you can sit and you can chat to Claude and GPT and all that stuff, but it is a whole different game when you're actually doing the work and realizing that this is my lane or this is not my lane. So that's like number one. Like if you're first starting out, I would niche, but I wouldn't niche down too much. And number two is I think when people use the word niche, they think of an industry, but I would say think of a niche of like more of a problem that you're trying to solve. So, my other clients that really carved out a niche for themselves in terms of treating hyperpigmentation, that's a problem, right? Like they didn't start off saying, oh, this is what we gonna do, but they listen to the audience, they listen to the patients, and they start hearing the same feedback over and over of like, I went to this clinic, XYZ, and I spent this much amount of money, but my hyperpigmentation got worse. And that's where they start to niche down to, okay, this is like the lane, the blue ocean for us, right? So for me at the time it wasn't actually medical aesthetic industry as a niche, but the fact that I kept hearing women from the beauty industry saying that I worked with many different agencies, most of them owned by men, and they just don't know how to market to women. Every single ad, every single messaging, it has to be some sort of like giving almost like a sexy kind of appeal. And that's not what we're about. Like that's not how women would perceive these kind of treatments, even with logo design, website design. Like it's just not it. And I saw that as a gap. There's a big gap for somebody to step in and say, look, I am your target audience. I can look at your product and services and tell you if I'm going to buy it or not. And because I am your target audience, I can create the message that speak to other people that are also your target audience. So that was more of where the niche for me was to close that gap of understanding about how to sell or how to market a product and service to women and empowering them, not just selling them something that they lack, but empowering them in a sense that it's more of an add-on, is a bonus, is something that will add value to your life and to your appearance, that rather than selling them from the place of lack of confidence, or this is something that you need because you might look like a XYZ celebrity. So yeah, sorry. I was like, I went on and I didn't really answer pretty questions. So at the beginning was tough, and I could see how it could be challenging for a lot of startup businesses at the beginning as well. But just remember, not to focus too much on an industry, but more of what kind of problems are you solving, and then just start from there. That's where it really changed for me. And then answer your later questions. Honestly, my personal brand has just been evolving in so many ways. And so in many years, I built my content creator brand up to 25K followers on Instagram. And I was doing a lot of brand deals with, really, really well-known brands, and poof, overnight it got hacked. I lost everything. So that was, it's like 2020. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was around 2020, like almost COVID time. And so that was like me having to rebrand everything again. And that was when I realized how vulnerable it was for the creators economy to rely on a specific platform, and how my agency, my business at the time, could be more of a sustainable branding for me. So when I started growing Tracey Nguyen.co now, it was more of things that are more business related. I almost don't talk about other products and brandings anymore unless I'm absolutely love it, or that, like, almost now I don't take any brand sponsorships or any of that stuff. I just buy products from my own pockets, and if I love it, I'll tell you. If I don't love it, I will also tell you, but it's not sponsored. And I feel so much freedom now to express myself online because it's not a sponsored product. I don't have a guidelines that I have to stick to. I'm a keywords or anything that I have, because back then when I was doing brand collaborations, every time we prepare content, it has to be approved by the brand first before we post. So the brand would monitor every single captions, keywords, and all of that stuff. So it's not authentic. And I felt like I lost my previous account for a reason too, because I was ready to kind of come out of that chapter of my life and enter into something that is built more on authenticity and almost like freedom to talk about things that matters. And so now my brand is more focused on business, on, oh, and then 2 years later, I mean, yeah, like EV came out 4 years later. So then we have motherhood content now. So I would say I'm still trying to find out what this new Tracey's personal brand is. It's been 2 years, but I'm still trying to figure it out, what it is that I want to build. I found that motherhood really, like, I thought when I lost that big account it was a big reset, but I feel like motherhood is a bigger resets right now, where I to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what my next branding um direction is. My personal branding now is taking more of a route of just documenting my journey and just being brutally honest about the things that worked and the things that didn't work. And hopefully my journey or the things that I've experienced can help another women, another new moms, or somebody that is going through similar journey as me.
Even I'm not a mother, but I love your content. I follow you on Instagram, and it is honest, raw, a reflection of your branding that you're showing to us, Tracey. So it's nice to get glimpse of Tracey's little one, Evie, as well in these Instagram posts and stories. But I remember it was in 2020 when you lost the 25,000 followers, and I know how stressful it must have been for you. But you built, I think the direction, the new reset that happened, it happened for better. It was for a good reason. And now with motherhood, the new reset, it's fantastic and fantabulous for you. So you also covered about certain nuggets of wisdom you shared for entrepreneurs who are new in the business. But what is one advice that you would like to share with entrepreneurs who are trying to scale their business, and any inputs on the power of focus that you would like to share?
Oh my God. Yeah, huge. And I think for entrepreneurs, because we're just so like, let's go, let's do this, we're so like, our energy is always so high, and we're also so creative, because entrepreneurs, we create things, right? We create offers, we create products. We have a tendency to just kind of chasing the ideas, different ideas a lot of time. And now that you have AI, which is, I don't know if it's like a good thing or a curse, because now I found myself just like chatting on different ideas with AI all the time. And now I have to actually train my AI to, instead of agreeing with me, really put my idea on stress test or challenge me and tell me why this idea won't work, so I can go back to my focus zone. So focus is so important. One thing that I've learned throughout all these years is that the grass isn't greener on the other side, is green where you water it. And you need to focus. And now that I'm a mom, I just learned focus in a whole different level, because before, when I was not a mom, I could be sitting down and doing work for 12, 13 hours straight, and I would lose track of time. But now my days, 5 hours, and that's it. I drop my daughter at daycare. I come back, I get all that time that she's at daycare to do on my work, and then 3:30, everything, I dropped everything, I picked her up, and I'm just on mommy's duty. I don't look at my phone often. I basically, I don't care about my business, or I don't have the capacity to care about my business until she goes to bed. And most of the time, she's a toddler now, so full of energy and everything. So by the time she goes to bed, back then when she was a smaller baby, I was able to do work after she went to bed. I actually went back to do work. Now I'm exhausted. I'm done. I'm out. I will go to bed too. So I have to be very intentional with my 5 hours, which then goes back to the power of focus, right? And because I have such a limited amount of time, it forces me to not be everywhere and doing everything. And it kind of forces me to stay on track and stay focused as well. And I really see that translating into my business results and the ROI and the revenue and the profit. Because when you focus and when you just do one thing and do one thing really well, again, go back to the niche too, do one thing and do one thing really well, you can really scale it easily. And especially for entrepreneurs that are looking to scale, the worst enemy with scaling is variations. That goes with your products, your offer, your human resource, your team, your system, everything. If you have one system to follow, easy to scale. If you have one product to sell, easy to sell. If you have way too many offers, hard to keep track, people get confused, whatnot. So I would say focus is, I wish I was more focused actually at my startup stage. And, I was testing out different things, but I think that I was still focusing on the main thing, which is solving that specific problem. But if I had been a lot more focused, I think I would have found my zone of genius a lot faster, and also would have been able to scale my business a lot faster as well.
But this is a very helpful nuggets of wisdom that you shared. And having that focus, that time management, the 5 hours you leveraged on it to work on your business, and then you devoted being a mother to lovely Evie. So yeah, this is very helpful, Tracy. It's a very powerful conversation, and thank you. You shared your insight and your journey with us so openly, so honestly. And I'm sure that this episode resonates very well with our listeners, because I want the listeners to reflect on where in the business are they doing too much, and what is it that they can do in the business so that they can be more focused and grow their business. So these are two questions I definitely want the listeners to reflect on. But Tracy, thank you so much for your time today, for being part of the podcast. I know Evie is waiting for you. It's a weekend, so I really appreciate it. And I'm sure, as I mentioned, listeners, that Tracy also has her own podcast. I'll definitely share the link. It's amazing. And she's an eloquent speaker and articulates the messaging so well. I'll definitely share the link. And Tracy, we will definitely share your Instagram handles, your website as well. I would love if the listeners would want to connect with Tracy. I'll share your details as well. And any inputs or any suggestion, Tracy? You are also a marketing expert for the Business Blueprint podcast. If there are any inputs or insight you would like to share, I'll really appreciate it as well.
No, I think you're doing amazing, and I honestly, I applaud you for doing this podcast because I listened to the previous episodes as well. Every time you release an episode, I really watch through it at like 2x because I'm like I gotta really get the information fast. But I think that what you're doing here is just so valuable and is such a great resource for entrepreneurs. And I wish when I started at a time that I had access to content like this, it would have really helped me on my journey, like focus, find my niche, know what to look out for when building a business, especially to like exit, to find investors and all that stuff. And you have all of these knowledge within yourself. I've been telling you a long time that you have such an incredible talent to help people. The knowledge and the expertise that you have is incredible too. So I'm just so happy that you're finally doing this podcast, and thank you for having me. And of course, whatever you need, just let me know. I would love to support and spread the message and spread the podcast.
I know for me, it's the digital marketing. Very recently, I've been exploring taking videos and creating reels and started an Instagram page for the Business Blueprint podcast. Like the focus is just to amplify and share with the small business community. So having you here in the podcast and sharing your nuggets of wisdom is one of the best things. And I know definitely once the episode is ready, you're going to post it. So, but thank you so much for your time, Tracy.
Thank you, Pretty. Anything for you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And listeners, if you found this podcast helpful, please share it with your network. Please amplify, and we'll share the next episode soon. But in the meantime, keep building and keep creating your business blueprint. This is Preeti Ruparil, your host for the Business Blueprint podcast. Tracy, thank you so much.